Today is January 1st, 2022, and Happy New Year. We're reading from this book. It's called The Daily Stoic. It's written by a guy named Ryan Holiday and Stefan Hanselman. Outstanding book, and I want to show you what the first entry shares with us today. Here it is. It is January 1st. We're talking about control and choice. We have a quote here from Epictetus from the book The Discourses. You can see the cover page here from chapter 1 on the right. Epictetus says, "The chief task in life is simply this, to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control. Where then do I look for good and evil? Not to uncontrollable externals, but within myself, to the choices that are my own." The authors say the single most important practice in Stoic philosophy is differentiating between what we can change and what we can't, what we have influence over and what we do not. Flight is delayed because of the weather. No amount of yelling at an airline representative will end a storm. No amount of wishing will make you taller or shorter or born in a different country. No matter how hard you try, you can't make someone like you. And on top of that, time spent hurling yourself at these immovable objects is time not spent on the things we can change. They continue, they say, the recovery community practices something called the Serenity Prayer. It goes like this: God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Addicts cannot change the abuse suffered in childhood. They cannot undo the choices they have made or the hurt they have caused. But they can change the future through the power they have in the present moment. As Epictetus said, they can control the choices they make right now. Same is true for us today. If we can focus on making clear what parts of our day are within our control and what parts are not, we'll not only be happier, we will have a distinct advantage over other people who fail to realize they are fighting an unwinnable battle. Epictetus was an interesting man. Wikipedia tells us that he was a Greek Stoic philosopher born into slavery, lived in Rome until he was banished, then went to Greece for the rest of his life. His teachings were written down and they were published in his discourses, and they've stood the test of time. They've been with us since AD 50, thousands and thousands of years. He taught philosophy is a way of life and not just a theoretical discipline. To Epictetus, all external events are beyond our control. We should accept whatever happens calmly and dispassionately. However, he says, individuals are responsible for their own actions, which they can examine and control through rigorous self-discipline. He gave European scholars of the Enlightenment an example of a system of ethics that was secular and not based on God's law, but on reason and observation of the natural world. Here is an imaginary portrait of Epictetus, somebody imagining something of what he might look like based off of sculptures or whatever it was, a remnant from his era. The excerpt that we read came from this book, Discourses of Epictetus. These were a series of informal lectures that came out around 108 AD. And 4 books out of the original 8 are still around. The philosophy is very practical, and it's survived for thousands of years. They were very, very influential in the time since they were written. They're referred to and even quoted by Marcus Aurelius. Since the 16th century, they've been translated into multiple language and reprinted in many times. Time acts as a very good filter. The fact that we're still reading Epictetus today in 2022 is very impressive. It survived the test of time. To see how this might work, think about any book that's written today. Is any paragraph going to be important and relevant 2,000 years from now from any author today? Probably unlikely. But the message was consumed and lived by Marcus Aurelius, who passed it down all the way up into the new year. And so as we continue to go through these lectures and through our readings, consider time as a very valuable filter that shows just how important these lessons are. See you tomorrow.